Well, this won't be a pleasant video. If you feel you can't handle something listed in the content warning, feel free to leave the video now. And if you feel you can't handle the existence of content warnings, grow the f*** up. Poland attacks sex education under the guise of stopping pedophilia. Disclaimer, I am no expert in Polish politics, so I could get some details wrong about the bill and how they get passed as legislation. Please do your own research. Topic 1 comes from Advocate, Pink News and Human Rights Watch. Poland considers laws labelling sex educators and LGBT folk as pedophiles. Right off the bat, legislation that is supposed to help fight pedophilia has my full support. I have no sympathy for pedophiles or that sort of ilk. However, my reservations for anti-pedophilia legislation come when it's just a thinly veiled attack against marginalised people, e.g. LGBT people, or educators, e.g. teachers and outreach workers, which this bill is. Alright, but this bill is in Poland, and Polish people are unlikely to see this video, so why am I talking about this? Simply put, recognising thinly veiled bills like this is quite important in my opinion, so you can respond accordingly when bills are being considered in your country. Alright, that's enough justifying myself, let's jump into this bill. Also, these news articles are all I could find on it. The conservative anti-abortion and anti-LGBT group called Ordo Iuris Institute for Legal Culture drafted this bill, and it was submitted for session by an MP of the Conservative Party. The anti-pedophilia bill would amend the criminal code to include anyone who promotes or approves the undertaking by a minor of sexual intercourse or other sexual activity. In Poland, the age of consent is 15. While this is quite young compared to other places in the world, teaching teenagers about safe sex and topics like masturbation at 15 is quite detrimental. Adolescence starts at 10. This is the time when people start developing sexually. Withholding information about safe sex can only lead to more dangerous behaviour and leaves teenagers with a lack of understanding of their own body. Not to mention that stating the existence of LGBT people would probably fall under the promoting sexual activity category. This bill has unfortunately been passed by the government and is now going through changes before being implemented into actual legislation. Using COVID-19 to crack down on minorities. This next topic comes from Human Rights Watch. Ugandan LGBT shelter residents arrested on COVID-19 pretext. I wasn't going to initially include this story, because frankly I didn't feel I had anything to add. However, thinking about it, I have a reason to talk about it. The article talks about a homeless shelter that provides support for LGBT people getting raided by police, and the people who live there were arrested for breaking social distancing laws, despite the police looking for evidence of homosexuality during the raid. This story is one particularly horrible example of a phenomenon I think we've all witnessed at some point. Attacking minorities or marginalised groups under the facade of fighting COVID-19. What do I mean by this? One example would be calling the virus the Chinese virus. This gives the impression that Chinese people are a potential risk of spreading the disease when that's simply not the case. COVID-19 doesn't care about your ethnicity. Now, calling COVID-19 the Chinese virus and arresting LGBT people under the pretext of fighting COVID-19 aren't the same thing, but these ideas are linked. Keep that in mind when someone insists on calling the virus the Chinese virus. Influencers are trash, number 479. This next topic comes from Insider. Moroccan Instagram influencers' videos lead to gay men being outed online. Now, as someone who barely uses Instagram, I'm not overly familiar with the concept of influencers, so that's not going to be the main point to focus on. The influencer made videos when she went on Grindr trying to out the men in her life. This started a trend where other women did the same thing. In Morocco, homosexuality is punishable by up to 3 years in prison. This is disgusting. Intentionally outing people as gay, especially in a country where it's punishable in some legal capacity, is just cruel. As a general rule, it's not your job to tell others what someone's sexuality is. That said, if you are in the closet in a progressive society where homosexuality isn't punishable, and have an accepting family and friends, don't date. It's not fair on the other person in the relationship. No one should be your dirty little secret. Using COVID-19 to crack down on minorities. Again. The last topic comes from Advocate. Same-sex couples told to vacate as gays are contaminated by COVID-19. Basically, a French gay couple found a note on their car telling them to leave their own home because gays are the first to get COVID-19. The reason I bring up this topic is because I feel there's a discussion to be had about how LGBT people, specifically gay men, are viewed in wider community, specifically the idea that gay men are dirty and likely to be diseased. I feel this assumption stems from the AIDS crisis, and is another example of using COVID-19 to crack down on minorities. I don't try to make exclusively LGBT content, however this is one area I feel completely comfortable covering. As always, thank you for watching and I hope you have a lovely day or night.